In this lecture, we're going to look at some of the material that is covered in Chapter 11. Specifically, we're going to look at some of the natural resources that are associated with food production and also start our discussion on nutrition. So in order to produce food, we need natural resources. The crops that we eat require land, but also the animals that we eat require grain for them to grow, which requires a lot of land. What these figures are showing is how many kilograms of grain is required to produce 1 kilogram of food, and then also how much land is associated with that. So for example, if we look at beef, raising cows, in order to produce 1 kilogram or 2.2 pounds of beef, that cow has to eat 20 kilograms of grain. The land area required to grow that 20 kilograms of grain is about 245 square meters. So to produce that 1 kilogram of beef, it requires 245 square meters of land. So this impacts our environment. Anytime we use land for agriculture, we are using natural resources. That land, also the water used to grow those crops. Our food choices do impact the amount of natural resources that are used. So from this graph, you can see that cows require a lot more grain to produce 1 kilogram of food compared to pigs to produce the pork. So to produce the same amount of meat, same amount of pork and beef, it requires less resources to produce that pork. Worldwide, our meat consumption has increased. This shows the amount of meat eaten per person per year. So in the 1960s, the worldwide average for meat consumption was approximately 25 kilograms of meat products per year. This increased into the 90s, and predictions into 2030, the average person worldwide will eat about 45 kilograms of meat. This is broken up into different meat food sources. And remember, each of these have different impacts on the land use. For example, again, beef requires a lot more land compared to chicken or poultry. Again, these are worldwide averages. If we look at the U.S. meat consumption, it is approximately 125 kilograms per year, so much higher than the worldwide average of around 40. So in the U.S., we eat a lot more meat, so therefore we are consuming a lot more natural resources. Something else in the U.S. is that we eat a lot more beef than other countries, which is even having a larger impact on our environment. So we eat the food that we eat because we need calories. Calories is how we get our energy. This is the same as the energy associated with combustion that we've talked about. So when we combust fuel, it is releasing energy that we use to produce electricity. When we eat food, chemical reactions that are happening in our body releases energy to maintain our functions, to keep our heart beating, keeping our blood flowing, keeping our body active. So just a reminder that calories, that when we talk about calories in food, that's calories with a capital C, which is equal to 1 kilocalorie. And again, calories is a measure of energy, and 1 calorie with a lowercase c, is just defined as the amount of energy needed to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water 1 degree Celsius. That's not that relevant when we're talking about food. When we think of food calories, we're thinking of how many calories does our body need to be able to maintain that basal metabolism, that basic functioning of our body. Calories are associated with our nutritional status. Let's first actually look at the undernutrition and overnutrition. because these are directly related to calories. Someone who is undernourished is a depletion of calories, or they are not getting enough calories to support the metabolism of that person. So someone who is undernourished is not getting enough calories, therefore their body doesn't have the energy to function to maintain the metabolic needs of that person. Someone who is overnourished, that means that their calorie intake is much larger or greater than what our metabolic needs are. So when we are overnourished, that extra energy, those extra calories are stored in our body as fat. In the US, 66% of the adult population is classified as overweight. That means they are overnourished. And half the population is classified as obese. So in the US, we have a major problem with overnourishment. And obesity has replaced smoking as a number one cause of death for people in the United States. Another term that we often hear is malnutrition. Malnutrition is different than undernutrition. So undernutrition is when someone's not getting enough calories. Malnutrition is when someone is not getting the proper mix of nutrients. They might be getting enough calories to support the metabolic needs, but we need more than just energy, more than just calories. We need a certain amount of protein, certain amount of carbohydrates, certain vitamins, certain minerals. Someone who is malnourished can have enough calories, but they aren't getting the right nutrients. In coming lectures, we'll talk about these different nutritional needs of humans. And the last thing I want to touch on in this chapter or in this lecture, is just looking at that natural foods. We need to remember that natural does not mean chemical free. Everything that we eat is made up of chemicals. So if we just look at this egg or the kiwi, if we break down the different chemicals that are found in these two food items, they do look kind of scary, but all of these are naturally occurring compounds. And we'll talk about this in the coming lecture. We'll talk about what is an amino acid, what is a fatty acid, what does it mean by having something that's a sugar. So just because something is natural does not mean it does not contain chemicals. It just means those chemicals are naturally occurring in the environment.